Hey friends, your old pal Bo here, the only man on YouTube with a face for radio and a voice for print. I'm coming at you again. It's been a little over a week since my last video, and I do apologize for that. I do want to push out the content more frequently, but I really only want to push it out when I feel like I've got something to say. Today I've got two somethings to say, and this one's going to be controversial. This is a spicy take, and I really feel like it needs to be said. If it didn't need to be said, I wouldn't say it. A couple weeks ago, I talked to you about the reactive DM. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about the active player. And especially in terms of combat or in terms of close actions, in those role playing situations where you're counting turns and counting seconds. If you ever played a video game like Skyrim or World of Warcraft or something like that, or I don't know, The Legend of Zelda, uh, your guy, he makes an attack. You push the button and he makes an attack, and it's always the same attack. If you keep pushing the button, he's making the same attack. And that's something that I think we need to talk about as role playing game players, making the same kind of attack in a game. Uh, hey, Joe, it's your turn. What do you do? I hit him. Hey, Fred, it's your turn. What do you do? I shoot him. Um, and I think the expectation is on those players is that the GM describes what happens in some cinematic detail. Oh, you jump through the air and do 3 backflips and slice off the troll's arm with your +5 flaming Holy Avenger sword. Um, so all the player has to say is, I shoot him. And I say, Robin Hood, your arrow flies through the air with such amazing precision that it splits the other shooter's arrow in half. And as the GM, I really don't feel like it's my job to describe everything that happens so that the players don't have to do anything. Uh, I would prefer if players did things with their turns, like this turn I drop to one knee and take precise aim, so that and I'm whether it's a college shot or not, I'm aiming for his right eye. Uh, this turn I sidestep and I feint and I riposte, and we have mechanics for that, right? You utilize the mechanics of the game, something besides I hit him. I hit the heathen with my flanged mace, uh, because that's not making for either an immersive or a cinematic or a particularly dynamic adventure, right? I think that the role playing experience is more dynamic and is more fun and is more role playing when the players can utilize a mechanic and some descriptive terms. Better when descriptive terms work with a mechanic, right? Something like this turn I pause to concentrate on my spell. This turn I evaluate closely and look to see where the troll's sword is, or what's in the troll's other hand, or how he's carrying his shield. Um, Actually, being an active player, right? Uh, this turn I ready my bow. This turn I draw my pistol from its sheath. Um, this turn I move at an oblique angle towards my opponent. This turn I lay down covering fire for my squad mates. And it really doesn't matter what kind of RPG in terms of genre or setting. I don't care if you're playing Call of Cthulhu, a Cthulhu adventure. I don't care if you're playing a dungeon crawl, a hex crawl. Um, there are dozens of RPGs, and I think that we just get kind of stuck. But regardless of the genre, regardless of the setting, I want players to think about these things. Think about the dynamism of the game. I feint. I dodge, I execute a riposte, I take careful aim, I execute an all-out attack to defend my friends. Oh, um, I'm injured and I'm bleeding, and so I go in swinging and I attack with my readied sword. Maybe you do the same thing with a ranged weapon. I want to increase my rate of fire at the sake of precision. I'm not going to be as precise this turn. I'm going to lay down some covering fire for my friends. If your system doesn't allow for these things, I ask why not, and what are you going to do about it? I play a game that allows for these kinds of maneuvers, and I would like to see players execute these kind of maneuvers, and I'd like to see GMs be prepared for these kinds of maneuvers. Because, frankly, as a GM, it's boring. Number one, I'm not a player in the game, right? I can only do what the players allow me to do first. I react to the players. And if the players just, hey, Jim, it's your turn. I shoot the bad guy. That's in, that's not making for a great role playing experience on my end of the table. Right? When a GM is really doing his or her part to create a cinematic experience, an immersive experience, a dynamic experience, and the most you get from the players is their expectation that we tell you a story. I know that in previous videos, I know that other creators have talked about GMs that only want to tell a story, GMs that tell you when to roll the dice, GMs that want to describe everything in such detail and in such a way that the players never get a chance to be players. But the opposite's also true. An RPG is not a television show. It's not a book that you read. It requires interaction on both parties. The GM must act, and the party must act, and they each must be acted upon. And so when players are involved, and especially in a combat situation, you come to expect tactics, maybe some kind of action, communication between the players in character. Hey, I'm reloading. Hey, cover me. Hey, I'm gonna throw my grenade. And when the players interact, and if you think about a movie like Black Hawk Down or Aliens or Saving Private Ryan, the characters are interacting in such a way that is entertaining for everyone. Again, sometimes it's the GM that sits back and watches the show. And it's easier for the GM to sit back and watch the show if I don't have to tell so much of the story. And it's just been something that's on my mind lately because I've been going through the GURPS combat cards again. I don't know if I've got a copy of these that I actually bought from SJG, Steve Jackson Games, a year ago or more. And when I moved my game books from upstairs to downstairs, they're in a cupboard someplace or in a box someplace. But I printed these off from where I was 23, which is the Steve Jackson Games store. They're free. I printed them up from PDF. But it describes the maneuvers that a player is allowed to have. And I'm not shilling for GURPS here. I know that the game is a meme at this point. And I don't care because I do think that it provides the best mechanic and the best situation and the best role-playing experience for me. Your mileage may vary. If you'd prefer to play another game, the first rule is your hobby, your way. But I am here to tell you that in the game that I play, it does allow for these kinds of things. It does allow, and you can print these out, and you can pick what you're doing next turn. In GURPS, a combat round is 1 second, and it almost takes 1 second to execute that turn as players if you really know what you're doing, right? If you're deciding what you're going to do while Jim is taking his turn, and then Joe takes his turn, it comes back around to you, and you're like, all right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop prone. Okay, so you've already pulled the card that says that you're going to change positions, and it describes to you what it takes mechanically. Okay, it's going to take two turns to get back up from dropping prone, 1 turn to drop, 2 turns to get up. But while you're down, it's easier for you to shoot, harder for you to get shot at. There are the things that are in the rules that aren't necessarily in the cards, like taking cover. Hey, look, I'm going to get some defilade. I'm going to kneel down behind this broken pillar. I'm going to duck out. Get a little quick peek, shoot, and there you go. You describe things you're going to do, because it makes for that dynamic, that cinematic, that interactive experience. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about interaction between players and game master. And the more you can do that kind of interaction, the more entertaining the game is. Granted, it does require learning the rules beyond the most basic success roll, but only just beyond the most basic success roll, because it literally tells you, and it has the page number for reference from the books, right? From the player's book and the campaign's book, and these are all in the player's book. A melee all-out attack. I'm going to move this turn, so I can move but take no other action. Okay, I can move any number of yards up to your full move score. So, and yards are roughly equivalent to meters. There's a 10% difference, but for my metric friends, if you're playing and using meters instead of yards, it's fine. It's absolutely fine, and not in that sarcastic way either. No, I mean it's fine. So, and you can sprint. I can move forward 2 more turns in a row. You get bonus movement for your second and later moves, 20%. Take a free action. Crouch. It's a free action. Why would you not crouch and shoot? It costs you an extra turn to get up, but not a turn to drop. Attack at a -2, target -2, defense is normal, movement 2/3 normal. So it's a -2 to hit, but a +2 to, a -2 to defense, a -2 to hit and a -2 to defense. That's good, right? Because I want to roll low. Change posture, all-out defense, increased defense, active defenses, dodging, parrying in melee. Let's make our games a little bit more exciting, right? Let's utilize some imagination and think about what you would do in combat with the enemy, because just saying I hit the guy to me is the equivalent of closing both eyes and just swinging your sword back and forth. I hit him as hard as I can. It doesn't to me indicate the expertise that an adventurer would have. Right? If you're playing a superhero, you're playing a soldier, you're playing a gladiator, someone who's got this great experience. Let's act like it. Let's become our characters, right? Because someone said it yesterday. I can't remember who it was, but the difference between role playing and method acting. Method acting, you're still being someone else, but when you're role playing, you're trying to really become that person. All right. Second topic, related to the first topic. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos in the last year, maybe. It's since the COVID lockdowns, YouTube has sort of become my preferred medium of social interaction, and on the internet, my preferred social medium, more than Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, because I think that it gives us more opportunity to interact in a personal way, whether it's reacting to streams or commenting on videos. And I'm not talking about like the big time influencers, the guys with hundreds of thousands subscribers or millions of subscribers. I'm talking about us, right? The guys with a couple hundred subscribers, right? I want us to work on breaking out of our echo chamber. It just seems that we've become these small channels have sort of glommed onto each other, and we're in each other's live streams. We're on each other's podcasts, for want of a better word. We comment to each other's videos. And if this role-playing game and tabletop hobby, right, whatever you call that hobby, whether you call it playing theater of the mind, whether you call it playing tabletop tabletop war games, skirmish games, whether you're playing role-playing games with miniatures or without miniatures, I'd really like to see us try to find a way to break out of that, to reach the people that we're not reaching. And I don't know if it's an algorithm thing or if it's an advertising in terms of how we are creating our content, how we are interacting with one another. But I think there's got to be a way for us to reach out to new people and try to bring them into this group. I guarantee there are people out there that need a friend, that need a hobby, that need some outlet for their own psyche. And I'm not saying that gaming is therapy. Gaming's not therapy. Therapy is therapy, and gaming is gaming. But everyone needs a friend, right? And I think that this role playing is a great way to do that. And it is an inclusive hobby, and it doesn't need to be a forced inclusion, and doesn't need to be forced diversity. But if we're willing to try again, break away from the people that think exactly the way we do or close to the same way we do, people that are playing the same games that we are. I know that Dungeons and Dragons, especially 5th edition, and Pathfinder 2nd edition, are probably the 800-pound gorilla of YouTube. And I know that the OSR is probably the big contingent after that. And there are different ways to OSR. OSR is not an end-all be-all. DM Bloodworth did a great video on that a while back. Take a look at that about the 3 different kinds of OSR. And I'm a big fan of that philosophy because there are other old-school role-playing games that are not Dungeons and Dragons or Dungeons and Dragons based, right? What about first edition Pathfinder? What about old editions of Call of Cthulhu? What about Tunnels and Trolls and the Palladium games and all those other games that certainly predate 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons? I would certainly call any of those games OSR. But again, I'm not so dogmatic as to try to get caught in a bubble, and I really want to try to break out of this bubble, right? Try to find a way to make ourselves more heard. So there are a couple of things you can do. Maybe if you're watching this video and you don't have a YouTube channel, but you do agree with some of these things, get on your phone and make a 5-minute video talking about why you think that that Tunnels and Trolls is the greatest role-playing game ever, or make a 5-minute video about how you're looking forward to the new Palladium Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because you already have a copy of Ninjas and Super Spies or After the Bomb or Rifts, and you want to incorporate those things. You want to play more of those kinds of games, or heaven forbid you even play GURPS. There's a small group of people on YouTube that make GURPS videos, and to you people, I salute you because you're keeping that alive. Again, the newest edition is from 2006, and if you're playing 3rd edition or if you're incorporating 3rd edition rules like I am, the difference between 3rd edition and 4th edition is mostly in points costs, and from 9 times out of 10 it doesn't matter. I've got a whole shelf full of 3rd edition source books that I use every single week. um, GURPS Traveler, a lot of the GURPS science fiction, GURPS Aliens, GURPS Space, GURPS Spaceships, all those great science fiction supplements, because I'd rather play a science fiction game, RPG, than any other kind of RPG. It's just who I am, right? I'm a space gamer. Um, but yeah, if you've got the capacity to sit down and make a 10-minute video talking about the way you hobby, and get that word out, because we really need to break out. We need to break out of this. We need to um, grow ourselves naturally and reach out to cross hobbies. You guys like Brian at Weird World War II. He does tabletop weird World War II. So let's take elements of historicals, plus elements of fantasy, plus elements of sci-fi, and put them in a weird blender with a tentacle of Cthulhu and some pixie dust and a Thompson submachine gun, push blend, and see what comes out, right? And that's what he's doing. And he has sort of glommed on to our part of the role playing community by again reaching out to people that he doesn't reach out to. So if you know someone who builds model airplanes and you paint miniatures, maybe you can build a model airplane and he can paint some minis. If you know someone who plays tabletop games and you play RPGs, maybe you can meet in the middle and play a skirmish game. One of the one-page rules games, or Stargrave, Frostgrave. Games that are inexpensive and miniatures agnostic. There are tons of those games. And reach out to somebody who plays again like 40K and see if they'll play one of those other games with you. Because this is how we are going to grow our presence on the social media. This is how we're going to increase the size of our game groups. I was talking to Brian about this earlier. I've been reading a lot of old PDFs of old game magazines, from 1983, 8045, games like even Old White Dwarfs. Old White Dwarfs from their first 100 issues would have an article every single month about Traveller, about Dungeons and Dragons, about other board games and other box games. It wasn't just all 40K. Dragon magazine in its first years would have articles about other games, about Traveller, about things that weren't just D&D. But somehow we've become so tribal that even the magazines, if there is even such a thing anymore, are all just house organs, right? White Dwarf is only about Games Workshop games. Dragon magazine is only about Wizards of the Coast games. Pyramid magazine is only about GURPS, for crying out loud. When Pyramid magazine came out in the 90s, it was about lots of games. So, and then I'm not preaching. I'm recognizing the problem that I have too, right? I paint minis and I talk about mostly GURPS because I'm mostly talking about the group that I'm in, and but I'm incorporating books and like I said, I've been reading a ton of the Journal of the Traveller's Aid Society. I've been reading a ton of Space Gamer magazine. Excuse me, just these old magazines, these old things available. I used the Albedo ship's source book in my current game for lore. I'm not using any mechanics, so I wouldn't really call it a homebrew. But certainly for the lore, I mean, how do you make zero gravity in a hard science fiction setting? Well, there are only like 2 or 3 ways to do it without it being space magic. And since I don't want space magic in my games, quantum physics certainly, but not space magic. So these are the things that I'm thinking about, and these are the things I've been doing. So think about that this week. Your thought exercise for the week. Think about being a more dynamic player, and think about breaking outside of your echo chamber, outside your comfort zone. Right? Talk to people that aren't your audience in your videos. Talk about people that would be your audience first, and then try to break out. Try to find things to talk about. If you're playing one game, try a different game, whatever it is. Just try to expand your mind this week, right? Hey, I appreciate it. I'm up to like 102 subscribers, which I think puts me safely over 100. Because, if you're at 100, you can be up and down. You can go to 99, 98, up to 100. And I might be there. And, again, I'm not doing this for the money. I'm not even doing this for the clicks, right? I might get a better camera and a microphone after the first of the year, tax return money maybe. And I would love to do that. But right now I'm doing it for the love of the game, right? So still painting, making some progress, working on hair and faces. Hair and faces have been my big deal. The cape game is getting pretty strong, but I think I do still want to push contrast more, go lighter and darker on the folds, lighter and darker on the robes. I'll probably fire up the airbrush in a day or two. I am starting a new job a week from Monday, so I don't know how available I'll be until things settle down, especially with the nature of shift work. I don't know what days I'll be working. I'll be working nights probably. I mean, I've always worked nights, and I probably always will work nights. But as in terms of days I'm available, I don't know. The best way to get a hold of me, you can email me at bowpaintsminis@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. If you make a new video, at me in the video, because I would love to. I would love to promote smaller content creators and try to grow this hobby, whether it's tabletop, mini painting, or role playing gaming. I bid you peace and hope to talk to you soon. Bye.